Hello, good morning students. Yesterday we have seen the whole summary of the lesson, the What is a Moral Action by Mahatma Gandhi. And today, the continuation of this lesson, we'll go for the further details. The first and foremost, we'll explain to you the glossary that is there in your book. You can go through and you can write in the fab notes. From here onwards, we have to write that everything which I put on the explain to you. That is you have to write on the board. Clearly you listen and write it to your notes. Okay. Since you are a 10th standard, I don't want to write everything on the board. Okay. In case if you want, just I will send you the slides of my notes so that I can refer to it. But better that you listen carefully and write the things. Okay. Glossary. We have here the glossary, the first word. Okay. Alexander the Great of the Macedon, born in the 356 and 323 BC, son of Philip II, one of the greatest conqueror of the world. Second, anarchy, the absence of the governmental authority. Anarchy is the absence of governmental authority. Bliss, happiness or ecstasy. Bliss, happiness or ecstasy. And conventional, customary, adhering to tradition, not unusual. Haltingly, hesitatingly. Henry Clay, born in 1777 and died in 1852, American statesman and orator, accused of having forsaken all principles in the hope of winning support for his candidature for the presidency. King Richard II, the British king, born in the 1367, died in the 1400, compelled to resign from the crown in favor of his cousin Henry of Bulgoburg, Henry IV, which died in prison. The next one, oppressor, in the oppressor or a suppressor. Penetrate, affect profoundly or pierce. Take sharp things and pierce, put inside the body of somebody, is pierce. Racialism, discrimination based on the skin or color. That is what we had in America. Racism is the problem of the white and the black. White Americans and the black Americans have had the problem because black Americans are originally from the South Africa or most of them from India. This is the problem. Now the next word comes to St. Francis Xavier. He was born in the 15th century, 1506, and died in the 1532. Jesuit missionary, known as the Apostle of Indies, brought Christianity to India, Southeast Asia, that is Goa, Japan, etc. Associated with the Ignatius of Loyola. He is a follower of Ignatius of Loyola in founding the order of Jesuits. It is the group of the religious group is called the Jesuits. Saint Teresa of Avila, not Saint Teresa of Calcutta, it is Saint Teresa of Avila. Okay, 1582, known as the Saint Teresa of Avila, Spanish nun, reformer of the Carmelites order, wrote her own mystical experience. Unpretentious, it means modest, to dress well. It is called as a modesty. Modest, to be Wendell Philip, born on 1811 and dies on 1884. American orator. Orator means giving the speech. ಭಾಷಣ ಕೊಡುವವರಿಗೆ orator ಅಂತ ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. And the social reformer, opposed slavery. Now comes as the question answers. There are 22 question answers. Okay, let me go slowly. Listen carefully, and while listening you can write your notes also. Answer the following questions briefly, that is comprehension questions. In paragraph 1, open your book and check it. In paragraph 1, Gandhiji says that a conventional behavior is dash. Options are moral, immoral, neither moral nor immoral, necessary or unnecessary. A right answer is neither moral nor immoral, or D also necessary. Both the answers are C and D is the answer. Neither moral nor immoral and necessary. Second one is an important one. What is non-moral action? Once again I repeat, what is non-moral action? Actions which do not necessarily involve morality are non-moral action. Once again I repeat, listen carefully. Action which do not necessarily involve morality are non-moral action. What is the difference between a mechanical act and an intellectual act? Answer: while stating that a moral act must spring from our own will, Gandhiji tries to distinguish between an action done intentionally and an action done mechanically. An action that springs from our own will is an intentional act. Any action done without the involvement of our will in it is a mechanical act. I'll repeat once again. While the stating what a moral act must spring from our own will, Gandhiji tries to distinguish between an action done intentionally and an action done mechanically. An action that springs from our own will is an intellectual act. Any action done without the involvement of our will in it is a mechanical act. Fourth one, give an example each for a conventional behavior and the moral act. Answer: when the messenger carries a king's order of a pardon, that is forgiveness, without thinking about it as his duty, is a mechanical act, and is conventional behavior. On the contrary, if the king's messenger bears the order of the pardon, considering it to be his duty, it is a moral act. Fifth one, the first paragraph discussed what is not a moral action. The second paragraph gives one important criterion to decide what constitutes a moral action. What is that criterion? Answer is The second paragraph, Gandhiji says that a moral act must spring from our own will, otherwise it will become a mechanical act. I'll repeat once again. In the second paragraph, Gandhiji says that a moral act must spring from our own will, otherwise it will become a mechanical act. Sixth one, when can the messenger's act become a moral action? The king's messenger's act can become a moral act only if the messenger carries the king's order of a pardon, considering it his duty. Once again, the king's messenger's act can become a moral act only if the messenger carries the king's order of a pardon, considering in his duty. Seventh one. When according to Gandhiji can we regard ourselves to have stepped on the moral road? Stepped onto the moral road. According to Gandhiji, when we all care only for what our consciousness says, then alone can we be regarded to have stepped on the moral road. Once again I will repeat. According to the Gandhiji, when we all care only for what our conscience says, then alone can we be regarded to have stepped on to the moral road. What is the belief that Gandhiji talks of in paragraph 2? That is the 8th question. What is the belief that Gandhiji talks of in paragraph 2? Gandhiji says that to step on the moral road, we should believe and experience the belief that God within us is the ever-present witness to all our acts. Once again I will repeat. Gandhiji says that to step on the moral road, we should believe and experience the belief that God within us is the ever-present witness to all our acts. Ninth question. All good actions need not be moral act. When does a good action become a moral act? Paragraph 3. Give on an example. Gandhiji says that it is not enough if our act in belief is good. It should also have been done with the intention to do good. Take for instance a man who out of a great piety or a pity feeds the poor, and another who does the same but with the motive of winning prestige or with some selfish end. Though the act is the same, the act of that person who feeds the poor out of great pity can be considered a moral act. The other person's act cannot be accepted as a moral act. 10. In the example of feeding the poor, whose action is moral action? Answer is already we have seen in the 9th questions. Question number 5, 4 and 9 we have seen. In the example of feeding the poor, the first one, who feels pity towards this poor and gives the food for them is the moral action. Okay. 11th one, the result of our action determines whether our action is moral or non-moral. Say whether the statement is true or false. Answer is false. 12th one, why does Gandhiji say that Alexander conquests cannot be called moral actions? Answer, Gandhiji says that Alexander conquests cannot be considered moral action because his intention was only conquest and renown. Alexander introduced Greek literature, culture and arts in order parts of the world, not with the intention of popularizing Greek culture and literature, but only when he fought to conquer other kingdoms and won popularity. 13th one, in each paragraph Gandhiji adds one criterion to consider an action moral. What criterion is added in paragraph 4? Gandhiji says that it is not enough for a moral act to have been done with a good intention. It should also have been done without compulsion. I repeat once again. Gandhiji says that it is not enough for a moral act to have been done with a good intention. It should also have been done without compulsion. 14th one, when does simple living become a moral? Gandhiji, while stating that a moral act should not have been done with a compulsion, gives the example of people who try to make a simple living. If a person lives in a simple and a plain life only because he does not have the means to live a life of luxury, it does not become a moral act. On the contrary, if a wealthy man, on seeing the wants and misery of the people around him, feels that he ought to live a plain and simple life and not one of case and luxury, such simple life become a moral action. That is there in the lesson very clearly it was said. Okay. Question number 15. When does an employee's action of paying higher salaries to his employees remains non-moral? Answer. When an employer pays higher wages to his employees only to retain them in his company and not out of the realization that he owes his prosperity to them, his action remains non-moral. 16. When Gandhiji quotes Shakespeare in paragraph 5, what argument does he want to strengthen? Gandhiji quotes Shakespeare only to assert that the moral action should not have any self-interest behind it. He wants to strengthen the argument that the moral action should be free from fear or compulsion. 17th. Gandhiji mentioned the name of the Henry Clay as an example for a morally non-moral action. morally non-moral action, choose the right answer. Right answer is non-moral action. 18. What qualities of David Webster's does Gandhiji mention? Gandhiji mentions David Webster to highlight the fact that he was known for his great intellect, his sense of the heroic and the sublime, submission, accepting as it is. 19th. What is the single mean act of Webster's mentioned in paragraph 6? Gandhiji mentions David Webster's only to highlight his mean act of selling his intellectual integrity for a prize. P-R-I-C-E here, prize. Why? 20th question. Why is it difficult to judge the morality of a man's action? Gandhiji says that it is difficult to judge a man's moral action because we cannot penetrate the depths of his mind. Penetrate, to enter into. Gandhiji says that it is difficult to judge a man's moral action because we cannot penetrate the depths of his mind. 21. What argument does Gandhiji give to justify that the moral act should be free from fear and compulsion? Gandhiji supports his statement that a moral act should have been done without compulsion with 4 examples. A person might live a simple life being compelled to do so because he does not have the money to live a life of ease and luxury. Secondly, an employer might pay higher wages to his employees out of the fear and compulsion that might leave him. Third one, similarly, a person may rise early out of the fear that he might lose his job if it is late for his office. Fourth one, finally, he cites the example of King Richard II of England, who granted the peasants the rights only to suppress their revolt and later forcibly took back the letters. 22nd. To sum up on an action became a moral when an action complete the following. Spring from one's will. Completion is spring from one's own will. Answer is springs from one's own will. Second, dash, paragraph 3. Answer is has been done with the intention to do good. Answer is has been done with the intention to do good. C. Paragraph 4. Answer is done without compulsion. Answer is done without compulsion. D. Paragraph 5. Answer has no self-interest behind it. E. Not done with the expectation of a benefit in the life after death. Paragraph 6. Is not done for considerations of a comfort and the personal happiness in another world. Then we have next we have your close study that we'll see on the next video.